$541.31 in interest that's not booked on our ledger.
So what's the purpose of the meeting? I mean, why are we here? Was there a formal letter or request?
Just, well, I guess it was an email requesting to
Release interest funds.
$450,000. And like I said, just going over the book, and we have the public index fund and we have the casino funds. So we can't do anything with the casino funds. So you're talking, we have a money market and then a trust Indiana public funds, which at this point, like I said, we have $297,541 in interest.
But Trust Indiana, you can take an amount out and gear it up a year and have it in 24 hours. Is that correct? And what's that total that's in Indiana Trust now?
Indiana Trust is $3,701,000. So, and then of course our casino funds, like I said, that's a different scenario, so I didn't even want to go there. But we've already booked in $177,000 in interest money so far this year. So when I take money in and take money out, so like on the interest report that I sent out, back in April, there was $1 million, in May there was $3 million, and then in June I took it out, $3.5 million. Well, that money came from the collection of tax money and or various other things. So June settlement came along and I have to put that money back just, to send out all of our disbursements that we do for settlement. So I took the 2.5 back out of the Trust Indiana. Of course, that made us some good interest money. So there's a lot of money coming in, there's a lot of money going out. Now I know that, Baker Tilly was talking about the $800,000 last year. That was a culmination of,
That was index money, public funds, and casino money.
and that was a culmination of what, a year and a half, 2 years?
Almost 2 years of interest.
When they started it in like May of 24?
We,
Or no, I'm sorry, that's when Indiana Trust became available.
That was,
Bill was investing in some other money market entities, so it was over a 2-year period that she booked last year.
Right.
so all that money, and then half of that money was actually casino money. That was, but we had to pull back out of the general fund. So, and I know there's questions as far as, where to book the interest, and it's just put into the general fund, wherever the money came out of, which is, it just comes out of the general fund, so it just goes back into the general fund under interest earned. So it's not specific to highway or, because we just don't build that
But
way.
then it comes back out and gets reinvested.
Right. So it's a monthly, it could be a monthly thing, coming in, coming out. So,
So, Paige, Baker Tilly,
Mhm.
she seems to support this, okay, this investment, using the investment. So, but you do this every day for us, so where's your head with Paige's head? She thinks this is a good idea,
yeah.
but she doesn't live here, she doesn't do our books.
Well,
Well, that's something new to me. When did she say she thought it was a good idea?
You want to talk to her?
yeah.
She said we're the only
Why don't
county.
we back up then? Why don't somebody explain to me why we need the $450 million or $450,000? We're sitting here discussing how much interest we earn and where it comes from and where it goes, but we haven't discussed why we need the $450,000, and I think that's important.
Well, let's come up with a second.
Okay,
We'll
well,
go into it now.
okay. first spreadsheet, that we're working with Baker Tilly this year, and our first spreadsheet that she sent out indicated that we would be about $460,000 over budget in the general fund. So we met with department heads, went over each of their budgets. We made some reductions, we removed some things. We worked with them, we made a little bit of headway. Then we lost headway with the circuit breaker tax credits. We lost $58,000 to expected revenue. So back and forth, we ended up at about $442,000 over budget. So that's where the $450 came from. I made some worked with some department heads today, and we got it down. They made some reductions, so we're down right now. We're at about $398. The general fund has the cash balance to cover this. We are fundable through 26. Our cash reserves will be about 20% if we do that. Baker Tilly wants us to stay above 15 for an active operating fund, so we're above the threshold, but still, obviously, it's not sustainable year after year after year. So the request for the interest was to show the state that we have options for additional revenue should we need it. So that's where it stands.
But if
So
the, if the general fund will cover it, do we really need to have this meeting today?
I voted for the interest money to be deposited. I think it's a good idea to reinvest that interest back into the public fund. I mean, that is property tax and income tax money that was not spent because we were being conservative. We were overestimating expenses, underestimating revenues when we do budgets. Done it that way for years. And I think that's why we have the numbers on these spreadsheets that we
But
have.
all that interest income isn't from property tax alone, it's also from casino revenues as well, right?
Well, the public fund should be mostly property tax and income tax. The casino obviously has its own interest in investment money.
Can I say that the investments that we have is not the majority of property tax money. The majority of it is the ledger money that we have. Say just to give you an example, casino is 1191 and 7303 fund accounts, which is almost $16 million. We're only operating off of 2 million of that. So all the excess of that is what we have in the money market. So it's not like you have extra. You do, but you don't. We're just moving it over to a money market fund where it's drawing a higher interest rate, and then we're going to eventually book that interest. So the interest is what you're actually making on that. The property tax and excise tax that we use during settlement twice a year doesn't really amount to that much, because we can only invest it for a 6 month period at a time, because come June and December, we have to disperse and use that money. So that can't be tied up, and we can't use or touch that money until it is dispersed. Does that make sense?
We can use the tax money to invest,
We can invest in short term,
short term.
but we can't use it for anything else until we disperse it at settlement.
It has to be brought back in.
Yes.
So that I'm clear, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I think what you said is the bulk of the investment income does not come from property tax and excise tax.
Yes and no, because we accumulate that starting on each tax period, and we have 2 tax periods in a year. So that does get dispersed out during settlement, so you do get a big chunk of that. But that's not like what we're investing right now, that's not what it is. We're just using like the overflow of accumulated monies that are sitting there. Like say, for instance, the casino, we have 16 million total monies. We've got 13 invested in money market, but all that money has to go back into those funds, those 2 funds. And the same way with what you call the general or our claims account, where all the other funds, say we've got 100 funds, 2 of them are casino, the rest of them are all grouped together in the index fund. So we have 9 million plus in there. That's what we're using, but we have 4.5 of that invested in money markets right now.
But most of that money is already spoken for.
You have to go by the fund's ledger accounts to know where your money's at.
And that's what you were saying earlier. The max is 297. Is that what I heard?
297.
219 or something.
297.
That's the max interest account.
already booked $177,000 off the money market in a CD that was cashed. So there's an additional 100 and whatever she said, to be booked, which would meet their 450 that they need.
297,541, that's just in the general.
And, you know, I keep going back to this number. And Gail, I think Gail's in here. The 147 that was out there earlier, has that already been used for other grant stuff? Can that be moved?
No,
No,
no, it's not been used.
but can it be moved to help cover?
That was the part of the rainy day that was done a long time ago. Besides the rainy day and the casino, this is another rainy day. Garrett just redid the ordinance
Right.
so that we can use it. It's 147.
So that could be used.
It's in the budget. Total.
But some of that, like what you were talking about, that, I don't know that, after talking to a couple council today, that they specifically know what's general ledger, or what's under 1,000, what's over here at the 1,200, or the 2,501, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? So that they know that we're just specifically asking for the, or they are asking for the, you see what I'm saying?
No, not quite.
Because of that 9 million, that's not just specifically general ledger.
No,
Or
like I
general-
said, if we have 100 funds, and 2 of them are designated casino because we do have separate accounts, all the rest of those 98 funds is gonna be in the index.
In the budget, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a conglomeration of all the other funds in one bank account. That makes sense?
It's hard to understand when you're.
I'm sorry for not understanding, so can the 147 be used to help cover this shortfall?
But the problem is that's, we just don't have a whole lot more after that.
Yeah, but we went 15 years
Yeah, it
of
has
not
been
knowing
touched.
that this
Yeah.
money even existed. 15 years. So now we're gonna say, we don't know if we can use it?
You mean the rainy day fund?
Right.
That amount is
And
on.
I'm not being disrespectful, I'm just asking the
Sure, sure.
question, can we use the 147?
I'm saying it's already included in this number that I have, okay? So our ledger total for all of our funds, which means everything's already been appropriated, everything that's been, and I'm just talking about this year, I'm not talking about next year, so I don't even know about the budget next year as far as funds are concerned, what that looks like. I'm just looking at real numbers today. We're at 25,480,000. That's what we've already appropriated for this year.
But nothing's been appropriated out of that rainy day fund. It's
No,
just
but
sitting there.
it's in my total. That's my,
It's
that's
in your
in my
overall
total.
total, but it's not being specified.
Yeah.
Yes, for something.
Right. And there's a lot of that that's.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
not
there's a lot of
appropriate.
funds that are out there.
I don't really know,
In the general fund, everything in the general fund has been spoken for.
yeah. And
You guys have to make your decision by, what, the 13th?
The 3rd of November,
Okay.
we've already pushed back the
It's in my
adoption date.
table. It's right there.
So the 177 interest, we've already moved off of the money market and cashed 3 million CDs. Went into the general fund on an interest line item.
We've got about
That,
mine-
the interest that you bet, the 3 million has to be put back into that because
Right, but the interest of that was extra, so where's it out
It's
of?
whatever
that
that
is
is.
sits on your books.
No, we placed in 177.
Go back and look at that.
Because that's not spoken for, so that
No, that's not, it's not necessarily something for what I'm saying. The interest that she's showing them on their sheet, and then we went,
well, 270 hours is ready to run the books. 400 that they took last year is like, where did that
It's a total, to me, it's a total thing, it's not individually.
Because we're still at 177.
See, we've got individual funds in the general budget. And, so we've got 11,
That are unused that we can put towards
no,
this.
they're all it's been appropriated, which means this is what the, the budget process last year says, well, we're gonna spend this much money out of, out of the, animal shelter fund, okay? We haven't spent it yet, because we still have 3 months to go. We might have money left, we might not, but that money's already been accounted for, per se. So, and the money that we have, is less than, I'm looking at, our bank account investments and whatnot, 26,674,000. What we got spent was 25,480,000. So that leaves us with 1,393,000. So even though we have investments, even though we have 13 million in casino, that's, that's kind of already spoken for. I mean, it's not like we have that $13 million just sitting there not used. It's already spoken for. So we just don't have in my opinion, we just don't have a whole lot of money to spend. We're a little short than what we thought we were. And, I don't know if there's, how many cuts we've done as far as other things that, like I know that the tech building here is unappropriated, which means that, it's in the negative, we just spend money. We're not, we're not making any money, so we're always in the negative, so the casino has to fund it. There's several, Morphet Bennington, those are all in the red.
Lance, you mentioned you had made some cuts. What were those cuts? What were the amounts?
The total was about 42,000. We just, one of them was the assistant in the planning department. We removed that. There was a repeater that was going to be purchased through EMA. I don't have them all in front of me, but probably 42,000. And also, I wanted to move a sheriff's deputy over to public safety, but we just missed the deadline on that. We can still do it in January, we just don't get credit for it now. Move that over to public safety fund, and that'd be a $55,000 salary probably.
Where was the assistant? What?
The planning and
Oh,
zoning.
planning zone.
Animal shelter had some part-time help we agreed to pay for out of their own donations fund, animal shelter donations fund. So that got pulled out of the budget.
But as far as actual departmental heads or departments, what kind of cuts did they make, if any?
I mean, we went through the line items, some of those I mentioned, but also, and some of them had, their original requests and raises were higher than what the council was doing with. We cut some of those back. So, those were done on our own. We didn't ask permission for that, we just do it. That was a portion of it as well.
Are there any funds that we could, like I know the judge, donated or gave back the money that a couple years ago, I think, the $100,000 he didn't
He said
use.
he'll cut it, but we don't want to.
Yeah, and he, I don't know if he does it every year, but he often does, but, sometimes that happens after our deadline, which we still get the money, obviously, the money comes back, but we don't get the credit for it when we're doing the budget. So we can't really count it until it
And
happens.
then my other question was like reassessment. I know she's got quite a bit of money in that fund. Can that be used for anything else?
Not for general.
So if he,
The problem.
if he comes here next Tuesday, it says X amount, that can be used towards
Right.
that 450.
Right.
And if we have until November the 3rd, you guys push back your due date. October 13th gives us, that's 20 days.
Yeah. I don't like going this far. We've got to have scheduled meetings, got to have a week heads up on adoption, public meeting.
That's just the last.
I don't like pushing it that way. I want to get this going.
But those funds you're talking about, that's just basically carryover or excess money that's been sitting there.
Yeah.
The problem we have as a county is that every year our revenue is going down
Yeah.
and our costs or expenses are going up. The problem is really bigger than the 400 and some thousand that Lance is talking about. You're funding part of next year's budget with monies that's left over from prior years. That's not gonna grow, it's not gonna get any bigger, it's only gonna go away. So the problem is really bigger than the 450,000. I don't know what that real number is, maybe it's 700,000, maybe it's 800,000. We'll know when 2026 and when 2027 and 2028 gets here, because the problem is only gonna continue to grow. And if we don't do something as a county to make sustainable cuts, that's gonna be reoccurring year in and year out, to lower our operating costs, then that problem is only gonna continue to get larger. We can either make cuts, or we can generate additional revenue. I think there's been some ideas in the past as far as generating revenue that's not been adopted, that we probably should adopt. You talked about this tech building being funded by casino revenue. That's just one of many things that's funded by casino revenue. The tech building is, Moorfield Bennington Sewer is, medical building is, all the employee benefits. You're talking about $2.5 to $3 million right off the top of casino revenue that's already being used to fund what should be in the general fund, or should be a part of our county's budget. So we just keep kicking the can down the road farther every year, and that gap or divide is gonna continue to get bigger. Hopefully, that casino will never go away. But if it does, or if we start spending the interest income and the money that we've got invested, that's gonna continue to grow, when that day comes, or if that day comes, it's not gonna be there. And then we're gonna have a huge problem. And I don't think that is the position that I want to put future, commissioners or council in personally. So, I understand the ask, I understand the situation, but I think it's time for us to make some hard decisions and do what's right for the county and the taxpayer, and helping secure the future of the county, rather than just spend the day and hope that tomorrow something different happens. That's where I'm at, that's all I'm gonna say, because I've watched us do it for 6 years. The revenue always gets less every year, and our operating costs increase every year.
Well, State Bill 1 is make a huge impact on us. We've already established that. It's not gonna be great. We're losing lit tax, we're losing public safety tax. We're gonna have to put in a wheel tax, that's inevitable. I don't know, when we talked last night, that's gonna generate 600 and something thousand if we do it max.
Max.
That's maxed out, 685,000, I think. We're gonna have to cut back on overtime, that's $150,000 this year or better. There's a lot of things that have to happen. I hate to take money from money that makes money, if that makes sense.
Right, and it's, the money that we're gonna lose on the money that we're not investing. So,
What's the number, Lance, forgive me, numbers are
398.
soaring through my head. No, I mean, the percentage number that the state wants us to be at, what number did you say?
Our cash balance, they want, for an operating fund, they want it to be above 15.
And we're at 20.
We're at 20 if we don't do anything here tonight. We'll be at 20, but obviously, can't keep doing it every year. I mean, obviously, it'll keep going down.
Yeah, I came in a hard yes on using the interest money. Obviously, we can't do this every year, but there's gonna have to be cuts, and the county needs to understand that these cuts might be popular, but we also have to, there's gonna be stuff that needs to be increased, taxes, that's coming up. And, if I'm hearing this right, if we have the money in the general fund, I hate to say, hey, let's put a Band-Aid on it for now, but the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, we're gonna have to have some conversations with department heads of, you're gonna have to cut somewhere. else to do at this point.
Is it feasible, when's their meeting, Tuesday? Is it feasible that after that meeting, you'll find out more from the judge?
I mean, it's possible, I haven't spoken to him at all, so I'm not gonna hold him to something that I'm expecting from him or nothing like that. So I'm going on with,
With what it is now.
yeah, if there's, and that's what I was doing, like, if there's a 2025 budget, you know, I reached out to Sheriff Morton, I mean, he had $4,500 for tires, and he hadn't spent any. I was like, hey, you maybe don't need that this year. He said, no, we usually buy tires at the end of the year, you know, and so, but he had some other items that he could get back on. So just working with department heads on some opportunities there, you know, we came up with 44,000 a day. There's just not that much left. You know, years ago, you know, the department heads work with us, and we've got the budget down to where it's just the salaries and what it takes to run an office. And there's nothing extravagant in there. A lot of these offices are 90% salary, and it's just the two people and what it takes to run it. And,
But when you say you got it down, Lance, but 42,000 of a $5.5 million budget's not even 1%.
no, I was talking about from years and years ago, when we brought the general fund budget down, and the department heads worked with us to do that, made a lot of cuts, a lot of sacrifices. But what's down now, there's just not that much left to cut. You get into employee salaries real quick if you go any kind of number above probably 5.
I'm not in favor of cutting salaries, but I think we've got offices in the courthouse that can cut positions. We've got offices in the courthouse where elected officials that may be in there 1 or 2 days a week. I mean, and I'm sure that's not just the courthouse. There's other, probably departments within the county. So, you know, I know we sit here and act like there's not opportunity for cuts, but I'm confident that there is. We just don't wanna make the hard decisions.
This is the amount of money we need to run the services we agreed to provide in these 24 departments in the general fund. Next year and the year after, if there's groups that talk about what we're gonna do going forward, then that's what we need to do. But this is to fund these 24 departments. You know, you're not talking about just cutting 5, 10 grand, you're talking about cutting a whole department out, to reach the numbers to where your disbursements matches your revenue.
And me personally, I think those decisions should be made over the next 6 months, personally.
Is there pay increases built into this current budget that we're still shortfall on?
So yes, the number you have allows for up to 3% raise, but that's not been decided. I mean, that's not.
Now it's 88,000.
It's about, yeah, it's 87.5, roughly of that, would be 3%.
I'm not in favor of no raises.
I don't think anybody's saying not give increases.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
You know, you can give increases, I think people should get increases, but I think you've gotta fund the county too. So you're gonna have to make other tough decisions and hard cuts in order to fund the increases. To me, this isn't about increases whatsoever, in terms of pay increases.
That's not enough to make a difference anyway. People have to have pay raises. We have to find the other ways to cut this crap out.
You know, I think some of the things we discussed last night, we've had opportunities in the past to generate additional revenue for the general fund. I think code enforcement officer is one of them. You know, can I tell you how much it is? No. But that didn't pass, it was shot down, but it generates, I'm confident it'll generate revenue for the county. You know, there's a number of things that we haven't done that we're gonna have to do. And cuts are also a part of that.
And, you know, I told you my opinion before, I wasn't for it. I'm fully for an enforcement officer, you know, today.
That's the short term.
That's not helping us today.
how do we generate additional revenue, and where do we make cuts, so that, again, we don't wake up in 2027 and say, oh, hell, we've got a $2 million problem, not a $400,000 problem.
What's the shortfall with the money you have right now?
398,
What is it?
398.
Including the money that was down that we don't know we can or can't use yet?
Well, with the 40 and change and something else, it got down to 398 from what I'm hearing.
Yes. I've got that when we talked about that refund, like paying my parking lot out of that, that still leaves half that money sitting there. His is about 21,000.
You're not gonna know on your own. But they-
I don't know what the quote on the parking lot is, so I can't tell you what it is. It's 20-some,000 was the least, I mean.
Okay, so,
I'll make a motion. I mean, I'm gonna get us all zero. I'll make a motion not approve, the request to use investment income to fund the general fund for 2026 budget.
I second it.
all in favor?
Well, hold on, we can discuss it a little more, right?
Sure.
So if this doesn't pass, you can still cover that shortfall from what I'm hearing earlier tonight.
Yes, we have the cash balance. I mean, the DLGF will be satisfied, but obviously Baker Tilly works with us to get what they call sustainable, which is, I agree, it should be sustainable, but we're.
But on paper, we should still be at that 20% range. And I'm on the same page with Jamie. Department heads, you've got some tough decisions coming up.
This
We do too.
Tough decisions coming up, right, so.
But